Really short. You know, I
was like,
don't like feeling so short. I like to pretend I'm taller than I actually am. Yes, you should. And my locks on my bicycle pedals. Yes. Yeah, with duct tape? Uh-huh. That was the story of my life. I trust him. I trust him. Nobody likes to back.
Yeah, how do you want to do this one? Let's take that one back.
Sean, what time are you? Good to sleep. Thank you.
Fred, thank you.
Red's family, good. Appreciate that.
Did you seriously just say that? I know. I cannot thank you. No. So I heard him. That deep voice. It's like my voice carries. Yeah. We yes, we did. No. Roll call, no pledge. Absolutely not. Yeah, no, that'd be great. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, I
think those right ones. Where do you want those, Kyle?
I haven't actually looked at it. You should forget. I don't want you to read Jeffrey.
Oh. Nice match.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I know. It's a surprise party. It's a surprise birthday party for somebody. There you go. Yeah, you're going when we did it. It was a Zoom. Yeah. I think so too. I think so too. I far, yes. Yeah, no. I mean. I know, they don't. Nobody does.
The way I see it, I'm sorry? No. It's out? It is, yeah, thank you. I'm more worried about the 4 bumpers that were tied off on the 2 cleats to, keep it from hitting the dock. But I guess when they pulled it out, they put the bumpers in the boat, I don't know. Yeah, they pulled, I guess, while I was out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Absolutely.
Is that all right? Thank you, yeah.
It's phenomenal.
I know it while I got it now, but I saw this rain. We had a couple rainy days, I think. Right?
Anything after this?
That bother you? What coats are. I understand. It's smart.
One more minute. I'll introduce April. I'll briefly introduce her. Yeah. Really? All right. No, it's 7 o'clock. How about that? Welcome, everyone. I am Bonnie Culp. I am the Executive Director of the Harbor Springs Area Chamber of Commerce. Welcome this evening. Welcome, candidates. Thank you, everyone, for being here and being so engaged in our community and our process. So I thank you all. Before we get started, Kyle Knight, our Chief of Police, actually has a little bit of an announcement.
Just while we have a good audience, a reminder on signs, because we have had some complaints that they either need to be, they can't be between the sidewalk and the curb. And if there's no sidewalk, they have to be 8 feet away from the edge of the curb not within the city right away, because we have had some complaints. So I figure while we have everybody here who has a vested interest, it'd be a good time to remind everybody, please don't put them between the sidewalk and the curb. And if there is no sidewalk, they have to be at least 8 feet away from the edge of the curb. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for those of you, we do have individuals who are watching on Zoom and YouTube. We are recording tonight's proceedings, and we will put it in this week's newsletter as well as on social media. So for anyone who doesn't see it, there'll be plenty of time and opportunity for individuals to see it. So before we get started, I want to go over a couple of things with regard to tonight's meeting. Zoom and YouTube will be muted. We will not have an opportunity for community questions. The chamber did receive a fabulous number of questions from which to put together a wonderful array to ask our candidates and hopefully give everyone in the community an opportunity to make up their mind as to their choices. So I thank you for those questions. Also, we've asked our candidates to each prepare a 2-minute presentation at the beginning. Each question, every candidate will get asked the exact same question. They will have 1 minute to respond. Angie Savard, our admin in the chamber, will be keeping track of time, and she'll give a 30-second as well as a 10-second warning. We are going to truly try to adhere to that time frame. Otherwise, we just won't be able to get through this evening. We also ask the crowd to please keep your comments and anything else to yourselves. If there is any issue, we will ask you to leave. We really want this evening to be about the candidates and about them having an opportunity to provide a bit of who they are. So, all right. Next, we will go with, I would like to introduce all of our candidates. And I'm sorry, we do not have name badges for everyone, but for our mayor candidates, we have our current mayor, Matt Figuera, and the challenger, Andrew Potter. Welcome, thank you for coming. City council candidates, there are 2 open positions. There are 4 individuals running: Jeff James, Maggie Lacey, Jamie Melky, sorry, Jamie, and our current incumbent, Nancy Rundell. Again, I thank you all for coming and helping everyone. So let's get right to the questions for this evening. Recent events in Harbor Springs have led to acrimonious and sometimes personal.
Excuse me, are we not doing opening statements now?
You are.
Okay,
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate
right
that.
on top of it, thank you.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do is we'll go ahead and start with Matt, and then we will go to Andrew, and it's alphabetical order with the candidates. Thank you. Go
All
ahead.
right. My name's Matt Figuera. I'm your current mayor. Served on city council for 6 years prior to my 4 years as mayor. I've lived in the community for 30+ years. Been a resident in Harbor Springs for 15 or 16 now. I got involved in city politics on a dare. Some of my buddies asked if I would run for council because they wanted a business person on it. And I ran and have fallen in love with running our community. I've raised a family here. I run a business. I'm involved with many boards and commissions that make Harbor Springs the place we all love to live. Thank you for your votes in the past. Hope we can continue to move forward.
Thanks, Matt. Andrew.
Oh, thanks everybody for coming. My name is Andy Potter. I live at 815 Ottawa. Happy to see some of my neighbors out there. Nice to see you. Appreciate any support. After retiring in law enforcement, I went to the University of Michigan. I specifically got my degree in Master's in Public Administration. I found my niche in community development. Working for the Village of Holly. I worked for Ortonville, Lathrop Village, Main Street programs. I've been involved in Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Oakland County economic development entities. I was employed by the city of Harbor Springs for approximately 2.5 years. While employed for Harbor Springs, I attended every board and commission meeting. I was involved in every meeting relating to the FEMA flood project, making recommendations along the way. In 2019, I wrote and was awarded a $650,000 Michigan Waterways Commission grant that the city had previously tried to get for about 5 to 7 years. I was here for 3 months and wrote the grant and was awarded it, no issues. In 2020, I discovered the city council had overlooked an insurance carrier policy. One call to our insurance carrier resulted in a $47,000 check to the Marina Fund over damaged docks. I also wrote a grant with the Petoskey Harbor Springs Community Foundation, the COVID relief. I was instrumental in highlighting that the city was not using its Act 51 monies and 2017 street sidewalk millage to replace non-motorized walkways, that's sidewalks. You know, our sidewalks were wrecked back in 2018-19. This resulted in the city amending the sidewalk ordinance language to mandating that the city would pick up 100% of the funding to replace the sidewalk. I'm running for mayor specifically because the trust between the taxpayer, residents, and visitors have disappeared. Residents are afraid to vote in objection of the city council retaliation. Fiscal responsibility is also gone, replaced by careless good ideas. Special favors are traded in plain view like card games, go fish. Honor and mutual respect and an ethical responsibility between the community and the city council is non-existent. I am running for your mayor. I appreciate any type of support. Thank you.
Thank you. So the city council candidates, we'll start with Jeff James.
Thank you, Bonnie and the Chamber, for putting this together. Hello, my name is Jeff James. Although I'm a fourth generation Harbor Springs person, I've lived here permanently for 14 years, and I love this little 1¼ square mile resort town. I'm qualified for this position as I was on the City of Harbor Springs City Council for 4 years prior, and I was on the City Council and Planning Commission in the city of Nichols Hills, Oklahoma for 6 years. The city manager works for the city council, and the city council is supposed to work and represent the voters and taxpayers. Currently, that is not what is taking place. A couple examples are when the largest gathering in this room I've ever seen, along with over 1,500 signatures of people that signed an online petition that said no paid parking, yet it is still on the table and council will not put it up to a vote of the citizens. Currently, the city wants to ruin Zoom Park and add a 2,700 square foot ADA compliant playground area for 3 non-compliant and old pieces of playground equipment. That is a 30 by 30 square foot area per slide, jungle gym, et cetera. Imagine 10 yards by 10 yards times 3. Even the city's own survey says that just over 75% of 170 people that took the survey want fewer amenities, more open space in Zorn Park, not Zorn Beach, Zorn Park. 75% said this, yet this is not my opinion. It is the city's own survey. I don't know of anyone that is against the playground, but one this size and in Zorn Park just doesn't fit. There's not one reason. There's another thing I'm running for. There's not one reason we need to continue to be a member of the RRC, which is the Redevelopment Ready Community. A previous city council and city manager wisely rejected joining the RRC, seeing that Harbor Springs is not appropriate for redevelopment, urbanization per the RRC Lansing requirements. Will be allowing a long arm of the big state government, our little town resort. This is being done partially behind our backs. We bet most people in our little 1.2 square mile area don't even know that the RRC is. I've been given only one reason as to why, and it's to be able to apply from grants from land.
Jeff, time. Sorry.
Okay.
If we start off now, we're in trouble, so we gotta
Absolutely.
stick with it. I
I
appreciate it, Jeff. You'll get 2 minutes at the end to close. All right, Maggie, on to you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Maggie Lacy. I live at 315 East 3rd Street. This is my second time running for council. I really wanted to participate because I have been seeing changes that are taking place in our town. And growing up in small communities, Vale, Crested Butte, I understand what changes take place that you can't go back if you walk down a path. And there are a few things that I believe, one of them being the Redevelopment Ready program that's taking place. Granted, there's benefits to it because if we go into some economic challenges, you have certain check boxes that we have in place. But in doing so, you're also changing your zoning. You're also changing some things that make this town with this town being unique. There's 263 other towns that are also following this redevelopment ready across the state. And you're basically opening up information, data about your town that any investor can actually tap into and understand what's taking place. It's like Zillow on asteroids. And that could be great, that could be bad. I just want to make sure the community understands what is taking place. We have the master plan and we have the redevelopment ready. That is supposed to be a community overreach information that you are to know this information. And I don't feel that the community understands exactly what is taking place. If you look at the police people that are involved with it, the Downtown Development Authority, we just extended that approved by the state council for 15 years. And that is specifically important for the redevelopment ready. You have, of course, the other zoning departments, Parks and Director. This is the reason why we are focusing on Park and Recreation. I thought Park and Recreation was because of our community and where we live and what we want to give back to the community, but there are certain niches that we have to fit. So part of this, I am looking at trying to understand why we have been getting pushed in the last 2 years with 2 tax increases, the Parks and Recreation, the Zorn Park, all these things that are adding up. And we just need to slow down. So that's
Thank you,
why I'm
Maggie.
running for office.
We appreciate it. Jamie Milky.
Thanks, Bonnie. My name's Jamie Milky. I was born and raised in Northern Michigan. I started working at the New York about 10 years ago and shortly moved to town after that. I live, I work, and I enjoy my life here every single day. With years of working in the public, I've gotten to know a lot of locals and their families and friends, people from neighboring communities, and visitors and workers. Through these conversations, I hear the good and the bad. I am here because I love Harbor Springs, and I will work at Harbor Springs in the best position to move forward and succeed as the community that we all know and love.
Thank you, Jamie. And Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Rondell. I have called Harbor Springs my home for the last 40 years, and I've been a voting resident since 1980. My husband and I raised our kids here, and we owned a business for 30 years. I continue to work in the area and be active in a lot of different ways. I am a practicing RN, and I work with the older generation, and I care deeply about our local residents. At the present time, I'm finishing up my first term on city council. I serve on the tree board, and I also attend a lot of other meetings, in particular, the Planning Commission, ZBA, and Parks and Recreation, because I think it's really important to know what's going on in the city when you serve on council. I'd like to serve another term and to continue to be a voice of reason, a good listener, and a member that's willing to examine issues from many different sides before making a decision. There are a number of very important issues that Harbor Springs needs to address. The lack of housing in our community, the need for more reliable electricity, the lack of workers for businesses, people's unwillingness to communicate in an honest and respectful manner, the need to balance our expenses and our revenues, and the challenges that social media presents with disseminating inaccurate information. All of these issues will take work and cooperation on the part of the public, the staff, and the elected officials. I've attended every council meeting since I've been in office, and I've learned that I can make a difference by being well-informed and open to other points of view. My job as a council member is to make the best decision I can for the city of Harbor Springs. Individual needs and wants are important to consider, but when I'm a council member, I need to act for the city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. We could silence our phones. That'd be great. Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate that. So our first question for the evening, no, anyone want to get up and dance? For our first question, and just as a reminder, each answer, you'll have 1 minute. We need to try to stick with that time frame. Okay, otherwise we will never get through questions that are helpful to our community. So first question in the evening, we'll start down there with Jeff. Recent events in Harbor Springs have led to acrimonious and sometimes personal attacks on individuals in public office. What will you do to preserve some civility in discourse moving forward?
What a great question. Thank you for asking. I have a huge issue with that. I have found, and this is also nationwide, that because somebody possibly disagrees with what I say, what you say, something like that, all of a sudden you're a bad person. That's not the case. It is actually somebody standing up for what they believe in. That's not a bad thing. I definitely don't agree with false information, things like that. I think that's terrible. I can't think of anything that I did to do that. I know I didn't write those 2 letters months ago. That being said, again, just because you disagree with somebody does not mean you're bad and does not mean you're wrong. There's 2 sides to a story and you got to listen to both sides. That's where I stand on that. Thank you.
Maggie.
So we live in America, we have a democracy, we have opinions, and I don't believe that we should be attacking each other. I do believe that individuals can present information, and it's for you to have discernment, for you to look at the information yourself. Not always what you have in front of you might be the actual information. It's for you to go deeper and understand some of that information, just like the Redevelopment Ready program. You know, you guys should Google it, understand what this means and how it will impact our community. The data points that were given at some of this, the information was there. Those were, from my understanding, factual informations. They were on the budget, from the county. But because individuals didn't like the information that was being presented, then it was disinformation. So I look to you as the community to decide what is factual and what is not. That is your ability to do.
Thank you. Andy, your response.
So one of the big issues that we have here is lack of transparency, passing things in the dark, in the dead of the night. Not letting our neighbors, not working with our neighbors, with our community leaders, not working with, and that includes Weckwatansing, that includes our business community, and all the way down to the people that are going to be impacted by our policies. Like, let's move the electrical grid in a residential area. No one on Lake Street was notified. Just like the playground set down here, not a single neighbor was notified. It caused great dissension. If you elect me, I will eliminate that. Transparency is number one. I will follow the rules. I will follow agreements. I will follow the law. That is what is important. Some of our commissions aren't following that. I will make a difference. I will change that. Thank you.
Jamie.
I think that everyone has the right to an opinion, and I think that at a lot of times that people just need to take a breath and realize the tone that they're speaking to each other in, and respect each other, and look at the facts and talk to people that know what's going on, and realize that you can't get your way all the time.
Thanks, Jamie. Matt.
It's been a struggle over the last 2 years with the political environment we're living in. I try not to take a side, if it's information or disinformation. As far as transparency goes, I think this is the most transparent council and city government we've had in my 10 years or 12 years of service.
Thank you, Matt. Yes.
Well, I think the best thing to do is to do your best to set a good example. I am on council. I've had a lot of things thrown at me in the last couple of years by much of it by social media. I think I try very hard to set an example and not answer in kind. I won't do that. So I think that's the best thing to do. I also think it's very important to be truthful and honest, and to make sure that any information and data that you're basing things on, you go to the right source to find out the stuff that is correct, because there's a lot out there that isn't.
Thank you. Our second question for the evening, we'll start with you, Nancy. Crime rates across the country, even in small towns, have skyrocketed in recent years. Harbor Springs has continued to be one of the safest community in our state, in no small part because of our dedicated police officers. In light of calls in certain communities to defund the police and strip departments of resources, do you support the upcoming Harbor Springs Police and Public Safety millage? Why or why not?
I do support the millage. I think that it is a good avenue to take. Absolutely, I have the ultimate respect for our police force. One of the things that makes Harbor Springs the town it is that it is a safe town to be in, and that's extremely important to me. I don't think that it will solve all of our problems in terms of revenue, but I think it's a great start. And I do think it's something that a lot of our community really values. So yes, I do.
Thank you, Matt.
I also support the upcoming police or fire and safety millage. Our police department does far more than just police the streets. They help our elderly citizens if they have a problem. They work with the children in the schools. They're ambassadors to our city. They spend a lot of time working the streets of the town. They do safety checks on the buildings. I support the police department 100%.
Jamie.
I also support the public safety millage. I think that the police are very active in the community. They're always checking in on people, they're around town, they're walking, they're in their car, and they are very approachable, and I think that that makes it really easy to go to them if you ever are suspicious of something. I think that to support this millage would guarantee that we can continue providing those services.
Thank you, Jamie. Andy?
So you all know that I am a retired law enforcement officer. I'm also a current firefighter. So I speak on this. Councilwoman Rondell, when they were talking about the millage, she says, let's see what happens. No facts were offered. No data points were offered. I called 10 area departments. And this is what I learned. Number one, the Harbor Springs per capita funding is one of the highest, if not the highest funded police department in the entire state at $740 per resident. 1.3 square miles, 1,200 people. The next near seven full-time officers. The next town is Boyne City, 4 times the population, 5 times the district to patrol. They have 7 police officers, $248 per capita. The police chiefs I talked to only could dream of being Mr. Cal Knight. I love our police department. I love our services. Their services will not be cut if this millage is not passed. I do not support this police millage. This is nothing more than a Headley Amendment override bait and switch. Thank you.
Maybe.
So I too would like to restrain from going with the millage until we pull together a financial committee. This is the 4th time that I've actually requested this to council. And I believe that by having a financial committee, we can understand exactly where we need to go. Also, if you're looking at the focus with the police or the fire department, we have never denied anything that they ever wanted. There's in the plan to give additional vehicles, electrical vehicles. I understand that that's where we're going because that's the trend that needs to take place. I also want to evaluate, is that the best decision based on what's happening in California with the high temperatures? These people that had electrical vehicles couldn't drive. Out in Florida with the hurricane, those vehicles are exploding. Is this the best thing that we need to be doing? And maybe we need to sit back and understand what those vehicles are best or not.
Thank you, Nikki.
I am for the millage, but not for the reason you think. Asking for 20 years to go up to 15 at 1/2 mil per year was an absolute disaster and a joke. The second request, okay. This one is 1 mil, 5 years. I think it's a shell game. Even Victor said that if you say police and fire, then it will free up the general fund. The reason I am for it is Ron McCray, who I just adored, said our balances are getting low, and I understand that. The reason they're low is because of the spillway. It should have been a bonded issue. It should not have been funded out of cash, but it was. So I would like to replenish that money. I would also like to, if I'm on city council, restrict where that money goes, because I don't know that we need it all, but I think it's a fair deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jamie, we'll start with you on this next question. Trust is an important component of being on city council. Is there anything in your past that could cause constituents to doubt your integrity?
I believe that I am very honest all the time. I try my best to always do what's right and do what's best for myself and the community and the people around me.
Thank you. Matt?
I believe there's any skeletons in my closet, and I've always done my best to be a trustful person, and especially when I'm doing my job as mayor or on city council.
Nancy?
I don't believe that there is.
Andy, we'll come to you.
So my firm belief is, as a police officer and as a veteran of the United States Air Force, I do not waive my ethics. I always follow the law and I always protect my honor. So most of you here know that I did work for the city of Harbor Springs. I no longer work for the city of Harbor Springs. We're a country of laws. So I'm contesting the decision of the city manager who illegally and wrongfully terminated me. I'm just gonna let the courts figure that out and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Peggy.
So can you repeat the question for us?
Sure. Trust is an important component of being on city council. Is there anything in your past that could cause constituents to doubt your integrity?
Well, I'm a nurse in 3 states. I've had my insurance license. You have to go through fingerprinting, background checks. If there was anything that's going to be popping up, I would think that would have been apparent. I run a business, I have employees, I have to get bonded. So I don't know if there's anything else that is out there. If there is, then let me know it and I can address it.
Well, with a name like Jeff James, obviously I'm part of the witness protection program, so I can't go real deep here. No, I've actually been investigated by the FBI so I could get my travel waivers to come back into the country real easy and things like that, and nothing popped up. And I certainly can't think of anything, so I'm good to go.
All right, Candy, we'll start with you on this one. City council represents the voters. Issues in city government require compromise. Is there an instance where a conversation or reading changed your thinking on a civic issue? This may be a yes or no question, or feel free to provide more of an example.
Read that question,
You
Martin.
bet. City council represents the voters. Issues in city government require compromise. Is there an instance where a conversation or a reading changed your thinking on a civic issue?
I mean, there's plenty of civic issues in town, as we all know. We have metered parking, budgets, and that's a big one, the city boardwalk, church bells, and electrical substation. We have city services, Zorn Beach. I'm pretty much rigid on those issues, and I'm sure there's 1 or 2 out there that I've acquiesced or compromised on. None of them that come to mind right now.
Maggie.
You know, I truly believe that the people of this community have the answers and it needs to be heard from them and they need to have the voice to convey what they believe what's happening. And if there is something that we're trying to achieve, then communicate out to the people and say, this is what we're trying to do. This is the bigger picture. I don't believe that bigger picture is being shared to all of us. And so if by chance, based on what I've read, if the people decide that they want to go forward and they want to have high density living or change the ADUs, our zoning, you know, the additional dwelling units that the planning department's discussing, then great, let's go down that road. But understand there are consequences with every decision that we make. And we have a pivotal time right now. We will never be able to turn back. And that's all I would like to make sure the public has that information to make those decisions.
Jeff.
I think that, yes, I have an open mind. I also believe that I'm a person that takes a stance and can be grounded in that. But if you have a good reason why I'm wrong, why a different angle should be taken, I'm that guy. I can do that. I've done it before. I'm trying to think of a great example of that and I can't. But I think there's 2 sides to every story. Thank you.
Nancy, welcome to you.
Of course, I've changed my mind. I think that's part of working as a team, working collaboratively. I try not to go into council meetings with my mind already made up. That's why we have discussions there. That's why we have public comment. Certainly there are things I feel strongly on, but I'm always willing to listen to the other side of something. So absolutely, I've changed my mind on things.
Matt.
We compromise all the time. There's been all kinds of things over the last years that we have been on the agenda. People are upset or comment on it and sway us, and we do our best to come up with a solution that fits fits the needs of everyone in our community.
Jamie?
I think almost every day I learn something new and I talk to people that have a different perspective than mine. And they open my eyes to see things in a different way or open up a new concern about something. I have gone back and watched meetings for almost the last year, and I might start thinking one way, and by the end, I completely think the opposite way. So, yes.
Thank you. My next question, we'll start with you, Matt. It has been stated that if elected, some of the candidates have said that they would improve transparency. Do you feel that this is a problem, and how would you propose the city to be more transparent if so?
I think right now, like I said earlier, we're the most transparent we've ever been. Almost to a fault sometimes. If you've ever seen the council packet, some of them are 150, 200 pages. So we're trying to inform people of what we do here. Yeah, I don't think transparency is really an issue in this anymore.
Thank you. Andy?
I couldn't disagree with them, with the current mayor more. Transparency is so lacking. The people on Lake Street didn't know about the substation going in. The people at Zorn Park at the beach there, none of them were contacted. I know the businesses downtown, they don't even know the DDA director's name. I mean, I shop down there every single day. I know the mayor doesn't go into all those stores down there. I think it's important to reach out to our partners, not only at the business level, but at the community level and even at like different 501c3 and civic groups, like Wetwood Tonsing, even the Boardwalk Preservation Group. And there's no transparency, there's no cooperation whatsoever. I would change that. I would work with everybody, and I promise I would do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
I actually love what the city has done as far as this email that you sign up for, and it sends you the packets of information, whether it's the city council meetings, the harbor commission, whatever it is. I guess tremendous. That being said, I remember coming up and saying something to the effect of I had no idea that they were getting ready to put in this atrocity at Zorn Park. Again, nobody's against playground equipment. I'm certainly not. It's just the idea of where and how big. That being said, I did not know about it. And even Victor, I went back 3 or 4 months on the city council agenda and it wasn't there. And he admitted that, and he did say, but it's hidden in the city manager. He didn't say hidden, I shouldn't use that word. That it's in the city manager's report. Well, I didn't see that. So anyway, that's what started that. But anyway, part of it's good, part of it needs more work. Thank you.
Maggie, your response.
So we do have a public participation matrix of information, and unfortunately, I'm gonna go to Parks and Recreation. They have a master plan that was out there, and they did a survey, but only 45 participants did the sample. And so is that really representing Harbor Springs? So I think that when it comes down to representation, and also you mentioned the emails, we only have 100 emails at the time. Last time I ran for council, we should be very overt getting those emails out there. We have our utility bill that goes out there every month. Anybody that wants to sign up for it, especially when you're looking at the master plan, the redevelopment ready program, that's at 10 o'clock on Friday. It's not recorded. You can't go back and listen to it because they call it a staff meeting. So I don't believe that is as transparent as it can be. And if I was going to come forward, I would do everything possible to make sure that we were pushing important topics out that are important to the community for you to have participation in.
Good example.
I think that the city is doing a great job putting all of the information that they have out there. They have emails, they put it in the Harbor Light. I believe they also posted at the IGA. And I think that it is up to individuals to be involved and do their own research and know what's going on. Because a lot of the information is out there. And if you ask questions, most of the city staff is really willing to work with you and answer.
Me too.
I think we're incredibly transparent. The agenda and all the supporting material for the council meetings goes out every Friday, and that's open to the public. Anybody can read all 150 pages of it if you want to. And that's just the example I use. I also jump on and get the agendas for all the other committees ahead of time. Our meetings are open, they're recorded. I don't agree that we're not transparent. I think we have more transparency now than we've ever had in the city by far.
Thank you. Maggie, we'll start with you on this one. Do you believe there is a problem with affordable housing within our community? If so, what role do you feel the city should play in helping to rectify the problem?
So I have a company and we have a hard time getting medical assistance. And the city of Santa Barbara does not support me to have my medical assistants to be housed. What I've done is worked with my community to college to work with pre-med students, train them to be medical assistants. Not only do they learn how to do a business, they work with the physicians, they understand where they want to go with medicine, and their understanding of business, the front end and the back end. So I solved my own problem. I don't believe a small town like this needs to be responsible for housing. Our job in this community is to make sure that we give infrastructure, safety, from based on what we have to contribute. So when it comes down to housing, that should be a private entity that's solving those problems.
Yes, there is a problem. In fact, I kind of had an idea to take something like the Birchwood Inn and possibly turn that into a housing deal. Do we need housing literally in our 1.2 square, 1.25 square miles? No, we do not. In Alanson, they're building a new Habitat for Humanity that has 45 homes. You own the house, it's 5 acres. When you sell the house, you get 100% of the equity. The only caveat to that is that they get first right of refusal to buy that house. I don't think that's a bad deal. The land's cheaper, and in this case, all of the land was donated. I don't remember what foundation. And I thought that was a great deal, but you can get more bang for your buck in the land, so you get more bang for your buck outside of our city limits. So I don't think it's a city of Harbor Springs problem. I think it's an economic problem that needs to take care of itself. Thank you.
See,
Yes, we have a housing problem. There's very little affordable housing in Harbor. I think we have to be part of the solution. I don't have a magic answer to tell us exactly how. Our planning commission is working on looking at some issues that might help with it. We do support I think it's the housing director of Housing North, which is a community-wide, I think it's county-wide. And we do financially support that person. I think we need to play a part in it. I think it's our responsibility to play a part in it as a city.
Andy. your response.
So government's responsibility to the people, there's only two things. It's the health and welfare of its residents. That is it. So as your mayor, I would be concerned with that. I'm not worried about people that could come here or people that may come here. Make sure that there's affordable housing. There is no affordable housing in Harbor Springs. I didn't create that problem, but I will represent the people that are currently here. Do we need higher density in Harbor Springs? Absolutely not. VRBO homes are a big issue in Harbor Springs. And I just think if we increase the VRBOs, it's just going to push people to the periphery, which we don't know. Where are our local people? Our local people have been pushed out. Most of our people that live north of Summit Street are barely just hanging on. So my job would be to represent the people that live in those homes and are barely hanging on. So where are the answers? Mackinac Island seems to solve it. Let the invisible hands, let the marketplace take care of its own problems. Thank you.
Matt, your response.
I said, we have a housing problem. The county has a housing problem. The country has a housing problem. At the city level, we've tried to address it by working with the county on a housing coordinator. I think in the city itself, affordable housing is, should be directed towards young professionals. We're not talking about building apartments or anything like that, but we need to attract more people to our community and year-round residents. And I think affordable housing would help that.
Jamie.
I think that there is a issue with affordable housing. I think the planning commission right now is looking a lot into short-term rentals, and they're looking a lot into the accessory dwelling units and looking at the rules on that kind of stuff to see if they can bring more people into the community. I think also that Harbor Inc. and the tribe have a lot of projects going on that would really help that, not just in Harbor Springs, but in the area in general.
Thank you. Andy, we'll start with you on this next question. It's actually something that you brought up, and I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on this. As you stated in your opening statement, that voters are fearful of retaliation if they voice their opinions. My question is, do you feel that this is the case? And if so, could you please provide an example?
It is the case. I guess I could be exhibit A. I know there's been some mailings done. I mean, I've disagreed with some of the planning commission appointments. I know they've appointed non-resident, non-taxpayers to boards and commissions over resident voter taxpayers, which I'm completely against. I voiced my objection on some things and I paid the price. I'm running for mayor. And I know there was a letter that had went out to everybody that has a Potter sign in their yard. I don't think that is a way to address conflict, and I don't think Facebook is a way to address conflict or conflict resolution as well. Thanks.
Jamie. Yeah, I was just going to say, do you want to hear it again? It has been said that voters are fearful of retaliation if they voice their opinions. Do you feel this is the case? And if so, could you provide an example?
I do not think that people are afraid of retaliation. I think that as long as you are speaking your part in a respectful manner, that people are going to listen to you and respect you. You may not always get your way, but there is an avenue in which you can express your feelings. And I don't think that that means that you're going to be retaliated against.
Nancy.
I do not think I don't think in general, the voters are afraid of retaliation. I think there's some pretty tough things going on in town right now. There's no doubt about that. But as a general rule, I do not think the average voter feels that way. I think, again, if it's presented, you present what you feel in a respectful manner. The council always listens in a respectful manner. I've been at every meeting for 2 years, and I just don't believe that most voters feel that way at all.
Thank you. Jeff.
Interesting question. I certainly have heard stories about that. The only example I can think of is there is a friend of mine who's been in business, I think since 1990, maybe 95. He employs about 35 people. He cut down some trees, helping a neighbor, helping the city, by the way. This has been done for the last 35 to 50 years, every year. It's up by the boardwalk, and I'll be darned if he did not get a bill for $12,000 from the city. Is that a retaliation? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's crazy. It's been, like I said, been done for 35 to 50 years, and all of a sudden you want to send out a bill for $12,000? I think it's crazy. This isn't that kind of city, and why it's become this way, I don't know, but I've got a huge issue with it.
Matt, your response.
I don't know of any situations where there's been retaliation from anything a voter has said. We listen, we try and react to what you say, make the best decisions.
Thank you. And Maggie.
I have to, maybe it's not retaliation, but it's very uncomfortable. I think you can go back to our Zoom meetings for last year, and there's been a couple examples where, a couple of elder ladies tried to make their presence known. And, they were pretty much dismissed and they did not feel as welcome as they should. And I think we need to be overtly welcome for any opinion that comes to the table. I do know this is a small town and things get around. And so on the back end, maybe at the bar, sitting around, having a little chit chat, does it come full circle? Absolutely. That's part of human nature. But when I go down door to door and try to talk to people and they make me come into their home because they don't want to be seen that they're talking to the other opposing candidate, that's a problem. And that has happened more than once with me. So I do believe this town needs to be a little bit more understanding, welcoming of all the different decisions. And whatever you all vote for, that should be it. That's what the people have voted for. And everybody should have peace with that. And we need to come back to civility in this town.
Jamie, we will start with you on this next one. Traditional way for municipalities to fund services to residents is via the assessment of taxes. Taxes paid for services residents need and want. With increased costs and limitations imposed by the Headley Amendment, if you are against the assessment of needed taxes, how would you propose to finance operations for the city?
I'm definitely not an expert on the city budget and the tax revenues, but I think that there are ways to get money when you need something. I don't think that donations is necessarily going to fund a lot of the projects that are going on, but hopefully the public safety millage can help bring some extra money into the community.
Matt?
Question.
Yeah. The traditional way for municipalities to fund services to residents is via the assessment of taxes. Taxes paid for services residents need and want. With increased costs and limitations imposed by the Headley Amendment, if you are against the assessment of needed taxes, how would you propose to finance operations for the city?
The tax situation we're in right now, the city runs at a deficit for the last 5 years. We've tried cutting services, which is very unpopular, to balance our budget. We'll be doing our new budget shortly. We've already discussed ways to save money, like vehicles now we replace every 2 years. We'd extend that to a 3-year replacement cycle. Reduce the number of projects that we do. I know we have some big infrastructure projects like the Glen Drive project that's been pushed back for another 5 years because we don't have the money for it. But we're getting in a cycle where we just keep putting things off. So I think increasing our tax is the answer.
Okay. Maggie?
So we're running at a 9% or higher inflation right now, which guarantees that we're going to have an increase of 5% for our taxes next year. Okay. Again, I would like to have a financial committee review a baseline of what we're doing because we're spending more than what we're bringing in. Understand that. I do know that we are giving 100% healthcare to all of the employees. I don't know anybody that gets 100%. That's the Cadillac program. Everybody else is getting the bronze or the silver, and that is at least a $7,000 deductible. So we are giving our employees here a wonderful benefit. I do believe that I have a neighbor bought a house for $180,000, put over $1 million into it, has a value of probably 1.5, he pays less taxes than I pay. Now, why is that? Did we not do a reassessment? Because that house should be worth 1.5, not the 180,000 that we're collecting. So do we need to go back and reevaluate how we're doing as tax assessments?
Andy,
Again, government's purpose, I said it earlier, is for the health and welfare of its citizens, okay? We do not have a revenue problem in Harbor Springs. We have a spending problem. I mean, the city manager implemented a full-time Parks and Rec department. How much is that costing us? You can eliminate non-essential spending, eliminate irresponsible spending, and that will keep our costs down. You can also, there's Philip Trompery, people with lots of money. I can never say that word. You can listen sincerely. I know somebody right now that wants to fund a new marina park down there. There's 501c3 civic groups collaboration. They are waiting to give us money. Currently, most municipalities, the city clerk, treasurer, DDA director write grants. I was here for only 2.5 years. I almost got $1 million. I don't see where any of that's happening in this town. So you can do that. So there's lots of money out there where you can gather that up. We don't have a revenue problem. Spending problem, yes. Thanks.
Jeff,
I think there's two parts to that. One is $500,000 is worth about $150,000 to the city coffers. I sat out there where you are and read a deal that had 8 items that we could have cut. It was over $150,000. And I also brought up an additional revenue sources. Any of that happened? No. Crickets all around. Even though we were told that the city would be looking at cuts, nothing had happened. When you say that there were cuts proposed, I would say that there were threats of cuts proposed. And even after that, none were done. But yes, there's certainly a couple of entities that could be not cut, slashed, just we don't need it anymore. And I don't have the time to go into that. But there is definitely things that can be done. No question about it.
Well, I think we have to look at both our revenue side and our expense side, always, for every budget cycle. As you all know, nobody likes to have services cut, and we've looked at that. It will be looked at again. We also have to look at other revenue streams, I believe. We've explored some of that. We'll continue to explore the different opportunities to do other revenue streams, except just for tax dollars. It is going to be tough to keep up with tax dollars at the rate inflation is now. So I think we have to look at both sides of that equation. And I think people, when they suggest cuts or they suggest revenue streams or not revenue streams, they need to really make sure they really understand the big picture and aren't just pulling a piece out and saying, let's just get rid of this without paying attention to what happens when you get rid of that one thing.
so actually, I'm going to start with you, Nancy. This runs right into the next question. Are there funding sources beyond tax-based revenue stream, and what are they?
There are some, and if you keep up with council, we looked at those at our last budget cycle. Change is always hard in any community, and it's particularly hard in these older communities. Some of the revenue streams that we did look at, a hospitality tax, bigger sales tax, are not legally allowed for our size of city or in the state of Michigan. We don't have all those options. Paid parking is an option. It's a potential for making money. I'm not willing to take it off the table. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying that I would love paid parking, but it's not about what I want. It's about what's best for the city as a whole in the long run. So there are some other revenue streams, but there aren't a whole lot of them that we can legally do in this size of city in Michigan.
Jamie?
I think that paid parking is probably the most unpopular way to get revenue. But I think that if it comes down to it and the city doesn't have another choice, that could be possible. But I think that the city can work more getting grants and looking at other funding options.
We've investigated a lot of different tax sources, like Nancy said, and in a small community, they aren't available to us. We spend a fair amount of time trying to get grants, and people look at a community like Harbor Springs and say, what do they need money for? Let's give it to someone who really needs it. We explore a lot of different ideas, and we'll continue to look at them to find ways to fund the city.
Andy,
Yeah, they talk about additional revenue streams. We are very well funded in Harbor Springs. We are overfunded. The police alone, I'm telling you, is at $740, with the next nearest town is $248 per capita in Boyne City. We do not need metered parking. They're talking tax. Headley Amendment override, police millage, bait and switch. This is not needed. There are grant funding sources. There are lots of people in our community. We are so unique because there are people that can write one check and make things happen. But they are not going to write that check specifically because what I've been told is the city council. They don't trust where that money will go. And that's an issue. So I don't think we need additional revenue streams. It would be good, but it's certainly not through metered parking or additional taxes. Our citizens come first, and we want them to stay put right where they're at in Harbor Springs.
Jeff,
Here first, absolutely no paid parking. Hopefully on my watch. My parents couldn't even do a cell phone, much less could they do a cell phone for paid parking and, pay that way. I'm real involved with the theater. We'd have to cut back some deals because there's a 3-hour limit on that. We actually couldn't do the very popular Sunday shows, the Met, which is ridiculous. They last 3.5 hours. You couldn't do it. I think we need to go to Lansing and look at this Proposition A and B. All I keep getting told is, we have $50 million, $40 million worth of new construction going on. And for some reason, we do not get to enjoy that increase in taxable value. That's crazy to me. Why can't we raise our electric admin fees? I think they're 2.5% right now. Why can't we raise that by 1%? There's $4 million in that fund, maybe more now. Thank you.
So evaluation, you need to inspect what you're expecting, and keep in mind Harbor Springs was behind their audits by 2 years. Granted, COVID, I will give them that, but we have just now are up to date to be compliant with the state of Michigan. So I, again, want to have a financial committee to understand exactly where we are. Looking at parking, the focus on parking comes back to the redevelopment community. They're requiring you to talk about parking in the zoning and everything else. Also Housing North in their flyer, they recommend how to participate with parking. So parking is not just being thrown out there for making money. Parking is something that's being pulled in from other levers about they're trying to tap into. I started a 501c3 for the boardwalk by recommendation of Matt Bagera. We do have a 501c3 completely there. I do encourage that, especially for the end of the year, that will go directly to the boardwalk. And I don't believe that we're doing a good enough job on getting grants. That has not been a focus. We have lots of people in this community that can be writing grants, and there's plenty of money out there to be had.
okay. In that vein, and we'll start with Matt. Do you know of any municipality the size of ours that runs its financial structure based on donation, and how, if so, where?
I've never heard of anyone trying to run anything on donations, and I don't think it's possible. You have to have a steady revenue supply or revenue, and you have to watch your expenses. It's just like running a business.
Maggie?
So based on the Downtown Development Authority, if you review the paperwork, the number one thing that you're supposed to be doing always is writing grants and looking for donations, okay? Not just taking the tax dollars from us. So that is right there based on the outlay of the documentation. I do believe there are other municipalities that are going on donations. You can go to the Podolsky budget, you can go to the Boyne budget. There is an area where it talks about donations. Granted, are we asking a little bit more for donations than other cities? I don't know that information. I'd have to look into a little bit more and get back to you on that.
Jeff?
Read it again, please.
Yeah, and the question is do you know of any municipalities the size of ours that run strictly or predominantly on donations? And if so, where?
The answer is no, I do not, but I also think that we're a very unique town. What do we have, 1,200 citizens, but in the summer that swells. Our summer residents are very important to this community, gosh, especially when it comes to school and taxes and things like that. That being said, remember when the old Hoover Flower Shop, somebody was getting ready to put up an old folks home or something like that. And there was a guy, Mr. Reynolds, and he didn't like that idea. So in about 30 minutes, he went to 10 people, raised $1 million, bought the land, donated to the high school, and then we have a great track. When we wanted to build the movie theater, our original budget was $3 million or $3 million, a half. Anyway, we raised $4.5 million. We now have a movie theater paid for, and it was because of the people that wanted it and donated to the city. So it can be done. Well, I think we're a unique city, and I think that's a great attribute.
Thank you. Andy?
Every time you turn around, you hear the DDA asking the city for money. We need money for this project. We need money for that project. But let me go back. There are no cities that just run on grants or special funding. But however, Act 57 requires the DDA to do grants and to do charity work that'll generate funds. When I was in Holly, I bought a Harley Davidson. I sold raffles. And by the way, I paid for the fireworks. So everything that I did as a DDA director was completely through fundraising. It was nothing that I did was through tax dollars. That's very, very critical. So in part, my Harley Davidson purchase was so we could pay for the fireworks. Before it was paid for tax dollars. After I partnered with the DDA and some 501c3 civic groups, it was completely for free. It freed up some general fund dollars for other things like sidewalks, roads, chairs, placemaking ideas. That is what we need to do. There's tons of money out there. Thanks.
Nancy?
I believe the question was a municipality that runs on donations, predominantly runs on them. That's a very different question than what's being answered part of the time. No, I think it would be ridiculous to run a city on donations. Can we get some of our extra boost from them? Yes, of course. That's lovely. The theater and the track. Those are all wonderful bonuses in the city. But to actually run a city on donations, I think would be pretty foolish to try.
No, I do not know of anywhere. I think that we are lucky here once in a while that people do donate money, but I don't think that the city can really rely on that.
Thank you. Jamie, we'll start with you with this one. Should there be more regulation on short-term rentals within the city of Harbor Springs? If so, which should they be?
I think that the planning commission is working towards some restrictions in residential neighborhoods. I have not had experience with living next to a short-term rental, so I can't really speak as to the disruption that it has caused, but I have heard multiple people talk about how many people are staying in these homes and how long they're staying, and not respecting our community. And I think that also cutting down a little bit on short-term rentals would allow more homes available for people that want to move here and live here and raise their family.
Jeff?
I know that that's certainly an issue. Last year, it was certainly more vocal and you heard a lot more about it than you did this year. funny / bizarre story. Was talking to the postmaster person last year, and she said she had never delivered more blow up beds in her life. She was telling me, or it made sense that what was happening is that one family would rent a place, yet 3 families would show up. And that's obviously not right. So that needs to be policed somehow. I don't know how, but again, it wasn't as loud this year. Actually, I'd like to ask Kyle sometime how this year was compared to last year. But I don't have any answers to it, that's for sure.
Nancy,
The question is, should there be
more
more
regulation.
regulation? We've been working on this and are continuing to work on it. Planning Commission is really spending a lot of time trying to come up with some recommendations for council. I think that it would make sense to put some limits on them. I don't have the magic number for it. I don't think we should do away with them. We pride ourselves in having festivals and the regatta and all the things we do in this city, and folks need a place to stay. And we have 1 hotel in the city. So I don't think we can just do away with them, but we are working on it. We definitely are working on, Planning Commission is working very hard to come up with some type of compromise on this.
Matt,
At council, we have updated our short-term rental rules 3 or 4 times in the last 3 or 4 years. The planning commission is working hard on it. Short-term rentals are a positive and a negative to the community. We have a lot of dark houses that aren't dark because they're short-term rentals now, which brings people to our town that support the businesses. But also it drives out a lot of the opportunities for people to rent homes here and live in there full time. So it's a balancing act, and I think we've done a pretty good job so far of trying to make it balance, and I think we'll get better at it as time goes on.
Maggie,
So this is a national issue, and I believe it's evolving, and I think we have to go back to best practices, and the city is doing a great job addressing this. I do believe that we have to look at the state, what the final decision is based on the state. That will dictate a lot of things for us. And I hope that we do not pass any ADU zoning changes until that is answered, because I do know in other areas I have lived, Aspen, Santa Barbara, they do turn those ADUs into short-term rentals. And so until we know what that is going to take place in the state, I would really encourage the planning committee and the council not to move forward on making a decision on the ADUs.
and Andy,
Yeah, the short-term rentals issue has been massaged and changed repeatedly in the last 3 years, like Mr. Bagheera said, at least 3 times. It is constantly being rehashed and rehashed. Every time someone complains, it's being rehashed. I think the whole issue is equity in who gets the short-term rental lease versus you have one group that may have 20 short-term rentals. I think equity is a very important thing. We should also know that the state right now, I believe it passed in the House. And so really, however the state law falls on that issue, our planning commission and the city council is going to have to acquiesce, whatever that says. But should there be more? I think we're on the right track, but we don't want to eliminate them. But like I said earlier, a proper balance and equity is very important with short-term rentals.
thank you. Matt, we'll start with you. What do you believe the most pressing infrastructure issue is for our city, and how would you rectify it?
Infrastructure, I think we're continuing to work on our roads. We've almost completed the updated sewer system, so everyone has high quality water in and water out. I think maintaining our infrastructure is very important. We passed a roads millage to help pay to keep the roads up, and we continue to work to keep everything running in top condition.
Andy,
Definitely the most important issue in our community is wastewater treatment, is the sewer. So that's a sewer authority. It's shared by multiple jurisdictions. Bear Creek is the largest jurisdiction that's attached to that. They extended beyond their limits. So they actually have to buy units from Little Traverse Township. So sewer is a huge, huge issue. I know the city of Harbor Springs, we're right at our limit. We haven't passed our limit yet, but we all love to flush our toilets, and that is so critical with our community. Boardwalk, I know the mayor shut the boardwalk down. The mayor and his wife currently walk that boardwalk. I've seen them walking that boardwalk. I don't think that's right, but I am on the boardwalk preservation. I'm the treasurer, and we are raising funds specifically to get that boardwalk back open. If elected, I will get an engineer to do a study on that boardwalk, and we'll get it open for us to use it. Thanks.
Jeff,
Andy was actually shut down by the city manager. I need the question.
you bet.
I'm so worried about Andy.
What is the most pressing infrastructure issue for our city and how would you rectify it?
Thank you. I guess I'm hearing it's the electrical substation. I am so against moving that thing into town, I can't tell you. We moved it out of town, let's leave it there. The electricity comes from Grand Haven, it's 201 miles away. You're telling me it comes all the way up here through Vanderbilt, all the way to Powers Road, and then all of a sudden, it needs this little boost to go 2.8 miles into the city. I'm sorry, we're not moving sap out of a maple tree. We're moving electricity. Let's upgrade what we have, which I'm sure we can, because whatever we do, it's gonna be obsolete in 5 or 10 years anyway. Everything's going electric. So why not leave it where it is, upgrade it, and then as Birchwood grows or as Lower Shore grows, things like that, then we can move the electricity there. But we're dark, as somebody said earlier, most of the year. 2 months out of the year, we need this major electricity, and we buy that. I know that on futures market.
Maggie,
So I understand electrical is important. There's a lot of changes, a lot of things taking place like Starlink. In 7 continents right now, I actually ordered it myself. It's going to change. I know that Florida's using it for the first responders because they have no internet. There's nothing supporting them. So because everything's changing so fast, I kind of want to know and make sure that we're getting the best of the best and make sure that we are evaluating this appropriately. I guess my biggest concern being health issue is the 5G that's being put on the Earl Mead High School. That is a risk. And not only is it 1, it's 4. AT&T has 2, 750 megahertz, and Verizon has 2, 3,700 megahertz. That impacts us. If you have never looked at what the EMF it does to an individual, and no one's talking about this. I would like to be like Mill Valley and not have 5G in my town. I think that this is a health concern that we all should be talking about, but nobody is. It's very isolated and they're letting the school make this decision, the school board members, and I don't know if we have the right people in place to make those decisions.
Jamie,
I think that there are a lot of important infrastructure projects that are being talked about right now. I think a lot of it comes down to what is most pressing and what needs to be done most urgently and what the city has the money to do at the time. I know that there's a lot of talk about the electric substation and upgrading that. We're moving it closer so that we can have electricity. I know that there's a lot of talk about roads and sidewalks being upgraded. So I think those are all important.
Well, I think probably our most important are electric and water. Those are the things we all depend on every single day. Certainly the boardwalk is important to me, so are the other ones, but the water and the electricity, as soon as you all turn your water faucets on, there's no water, or you flip your lights on and there's no lights. So our budget isn't great right now, so I think we have to be very mindful of the way we spend our money. But I also know part of the reason some of our upgrades are so expensive is because things got put off when they really should have been dealt with a long time ago. So I'm very hesitant to kick those cans down the road anymore. I think we need to especially pay attention to our electricity and our water and sewer.
Thank you. So my final question for tonight, and Jeff, we'll start with you. What is your long-term dream or vision for the future of Harbor Springs?
To go back in time just a little bit. Look at these pictures around here. I remember these days. Well, not now because of the snow. But at the same time, I think we've gotten too big too fast. I think we're trying to do too many things. I don't think that the citizens are being listened to. I've got a huge issue with that. I think that the citizens do come here. I do think that they talk and the ears are on, but that's as far as it goes. And I'm very sad to see that happen. You know, I don't think we need to go back to 3-digit phone numbers. I think that's a little bit extreme, but let's go back 5 or 10 years. I think it was a simpler time. It was easier. People were nicer. I know that COVID and such like that has obviously brought in a ton of people, but it's manageable. Thank you.
Nancy.
I would like to see some more families in our town living in the city, some more year-round residents again. I've been here over 40 years, so I've seen things swing both ways on Main Street. I think we have to be open to some change in order for that to happen. We're not the same place we were 40 years ago. We never will be. And I think that's fine. But I do think that more year-round residents, some new businesses, some younger families, something that will sustain us beyond my lifetime. And that means we need some younger folks in town, and we have to open up some opportunities for them in order to do that.
Thank you. Jamie.
I think maintaining the safety and the beauty of the city that we live in is very important. I think that continuing to improve the parks and upgrading things to stay relevant and keep young people interested in wanting to come visit, whether it's children or their parents, and just being a happier community.
Thank you. Andy.
Well, maintaining the integrity and charm of our community is paramount with me running. Trying to do new things, resume building is causing a lot of contention in our community. I am not a change agent. I want to turn things back to 10 years ago. I want to stop and slow down. I want to evaluate things before we get too aggressive and move forward. I'm your best candidate. I'm a veteran. I'm a policeman. I'm a firefighter. I've been involved in planning commissions, DDAs, Main Street. I've been a finance director. I've been involved in every aspect of municipal government. And I think I would do a good job. And I also want to keep the people that are here, especially our local people north of town that maybe are on the edge and on the fringe of losing their home. I want to keep them here, and I will do that.
Maggie.
So I had the pleasure of talking to a lot of youth and to see their perspective, and they too see that there is changes that are taking place, and they like the generational resort town that we are. And so if anything, I understand we have to have change. We need to have infrastructure that keeps up to what our community is, but do we need to have high density living? Do we need to go down that road to create economic growth? I don't know if we can answer those decisions. We're a very small town. We're not Petoskey. We don't have the big boxes. We don't have the college. We are Harbor Springs. And if you keep Harbor Springs, the value of Harbor will go up. It's supply and demand. So if you really think that we're going to lose the value because we are not changing to keep up with the Joneses of the other towns, that is wrong. I've seen these other towns change and what takes place in an Aspen or a Vail or a Crested Butte or a Santa Barbara. I don't know you want to make those changes. And this is a pivotal time, but you all will make the decisions on your voting. And so I encourage you to really think heavily about this.
Thank you, Maggie. And Matt.
Sadly, the average age of our citizenship in Harbor Springs is in the mid-60s. We've all enjoyed our time here. I think we need to plan for the next generation to give them the things that they want here, a chance to live here. And opportunity, Harbor Springs will always be Harbor Springs. We're limited by our size. And we just need to make it better for the next generation so that people continue to call this place home.
Thank you for answering our questions this evening. And we'll wrap up the evening with each of you with a 2-minute closing statement, and we'll go back to that the way that we began, and we'll start with you, Matt.
Very good. Well, we've heard a lot of information here tonight. Different opinions of what the city should be. I think, we try and run it like a business. We try and manage what's going on here. We make decisions that affect all of us. Some are good, some are bad. That will continue to happen as we move forward. There's a lot of issues on our plate, the substation, infrastructure, planning for the future. I think we've got a good council now, and going forward, I think we can all work together to keep Harbor Springs the way we all want it.
Thank you, Matt. Andy.
So during my tenure in resident of Harbor Springs, I've witnessed our business owner, property owners, taxpayers, and residents ignored. I'm not for that. I watched them being admonished, ridiculed by city council members because of a difference of opinion or of an issue that is being contested. That we can't have that. We need to all work together. We need to be more neighborly. I'm all about that. I've witnessed city council actions favor their friends, neighbors, and peer groups currently on the city council. I've witnessed the current city council ignore the rule of law and then relying on conquer and divide on their policy versus consensus building, collaboration, and compromise. Like was said earlier, we need to work together. I believe in doing that. It involves positive communication. It involves the type of communication that you have with your neighbors. We all get along with our neighbors. In fact, we work very hard to get along with our neighbors. If council people, you need to not only work with your neighbors, you need to work with your business people and start collaborations from outside of Harbor Springs as well. I think I'm the best candidate for that. Nobody on the city council currently has my qualifications. I hope you take that into account. If elected, the church bells will continue to ring during my 2 years as the current mayor. The boardwalk will be reopened. The electrical substation, there are so much technology right now that's being developed in fusion generation plants, and that's a huge topic in itself. In 10 years, if you move that electrical substation here, it'll be obsolete, like it was previously said. So I'm all for some minor things and update some of our sidewalks, some of our infrastructure, but I appreciate any support. Thank you.
Jeff.
I think what I'd like to do is finish what I was saying earlier, because I think it's important. But I'd also like to add, if you don't want paid parking and you do want to see us get out of the RC, which we do not belong in, we're way too small of a town. We do not want Lansing's arm in our back pocket, then vote for me, because that is very important to me. I've been given only one reason as to why we would want to be part of the RC, and that's to get grants from Lansing. We are being asked to change, conform, and adhere to a cookie cutter style city that Lansing thinks is best for Harbor Springs. We're to check boxes so we can think what Lansing thinks is best for us. Are you kidding? There's not one reason we need or want Lansing telling us what we can or cannot do. I was part of a group that redeveloped a building on Main Street into a movie theater. I'm very glad we did not have to deal with Lansing. The RRC might be a good fit for some cities that have abandoned or vacant buildings, warehouses, etc., along with some vacant land, but it's not a good idea for our 1 1/4 square mile resort community. I would like to see us stay like we are, like I say, go back just a little bit. Thank you very much. And thank you for being the timer. That was a huge help.
Sorry. And Maggie.
So the median age based on the RRC website is 54 for Harbor Springs. And you can find a lot of information there because it is very transparent on what they are giving out to all the developers that would like to come in and come in with the economic focus. So I encourage you guys to get educated about the redevelopment ready, but between the Hudley, the paid parking, 5G, the transformer, the church bells, the redevelopment ready, the rezoning, the boardwalk, the playground equipment, the DDA, we've been just overloaded with things this year. And you can look at that being very positive that the council is going down this road, or you can say, wait a second, let's just stop. And I don't know what the redevelopment ready community is. I didn't look at the master plan, what this is. Why is paid parking so important to us? Why are we having to go down here? I encourage you guys to really evaluate this and understand this, and to make sure that whoever you're putting in front of a council, that you're able to talk back and forth and not be thrown out of the room because of it. And hopefully we come back to a town of Harbor Springs where you go down and you greet your neighbor, no matter if you agree with what the issues are or not, but we need to get back to that. And so I hope that I am elected for council. I believe that I'm approachable. I also believe that I'm very analytical, and I would look for the best for the community. So thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie, for putting this on and for everyone that attended today. I believe that community works best when everyone works together. I've experienced this recently firsthand when I volunteered at Fall Fest and then the tree planting at City Hall. These great community events bring people together and are enjoyed by locals and visitors. As a resort community, we must maintain a balance between residents and visitors. I believe that I'm the best candidate to help maintain that balance because I succeed in it every day. It seems like everyone would agree that we all have one goal, and that's for Harbor Springs to be the best place to live and work.
Before you vote on November 8th, I would like to encourage everyone to please be sure and research all of the candidates at this table. Check on our backgrounds, check on our experiences, make sure that you are aware of our abilities and willingness to work in collaborative and cooperative styles. Check with the candidates to understand their plans and their solutions, not just to hear what's wrong with what's being done now. Promises are really easy to make and they're really tough to carry them out. You need to be sure that the information and data that you have is accurate and truthful. Running this city is a team effort. We have to work together to do it. We have to work with elected officials, we have to work with staff, and we have to work with the public. We don't always get to have things the way that we would like them personally to go. And we have to have respect for everybody that we're working with. So for me, there's no time or place for personal attacks or disrespectful behaviors. We can't get the work done if that's the way it goes. So thanks for all your interest, and thanks, Bonnie, for putting this on. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you guys tonight. And please remember to vote.
Thank you. That was the last thing I was going to say. Don't forget to vote November 8th. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate